The topic I most want the presidents to address in the 2020 presidential election is climate change. The reason I want them to address it is because it's been a big problem for many, many years and barely anybody has tried to do something about it. The current nominee for head of EPA, Andrew Wheeler, doesn't mention climate change in any of his opening statements and states that it isn't the greatest global crisis, as stated in this clip I'm about to show you.
There will be irreparable damage in the United States and in virtually every country on Earth. Do you agree with the scientific community?
I would not call it the greatest crisis, no, sir. I consider it a huge issue that has to be addressed globally.
The climate is a big problem all around the globe, and it is mainly our fault. One of the biggest issues of our climate is all the greenhouse gases. It is estimated that global warming and 100% of all greenhouse gases are humans' fault. The reason why the estimate is so high is because we have been destroying our atmosphere with all the gases we've been putting in the air with all the motorized vehicles and things we've been creating. There are some natural causes, but they're not enough to really make too much of a difference as fast as we're making a difference. We've been polluting the air with carbon dioxide, methane gas, and an increase in water vapor. We've also been melting the ice caps because of the gases that we put into the air is heating up the atmosphere. Even though we have all these renewable sources we could be using and should be using, we still use the cheaper, more dangerous sources. People could go solar, they could recycle, they could use your organic instead of pesticides, they could walk and bicycle instead of driving cars, and they could open windows instead of using AC. And maybe try to invent different things to use for cars, like electricity or solar powered rather than gas. Another problem we have is livestock. It is estimated that 15% of all global greenhouse gases are from livestock. This estimate is from the fact that 3/4 of agriculture land are used for livestock grazing. This amount of livestock can fill up tons of 55-gallon bags with methane in less than a day. With all this methane gas going up in the air when it's not filling a gas, it's tearing a hole in our atmosphere. This hole in the atmosphere is letting more radiation from the sun onto our planet, and then it gets stuck on our planet because of the blanket effect from all of the CO2. So it's not going to escape back to space unless we reduce the CO2 in the air. I will now show you a clip of how cows and stuff affect the environment.
A cow can basically fill up a 55-gallon garbage bag full of methane every day. 3/4 of agricultural land is used just to feed livestock. When you factor in everything, the clearing of the land for grazing, feeding, transporting, livestock causes more greenhouse gases than all the direct emissions from the entire transportation sector.
Since we are pushing all this CO2 and CH4 into the air, nature's natural course of climate change is speeding up at a high rate. This rate that we sped up is increasing the speed that the ice caps are melting at, which raises sea level and humidity, which then raises the sea temperature and the sea breeze above it. For example, the Thwaites part of Antarctica could break off any day, and we might have a 5-foot increase in sea level if it breaks off, as shown in this video.
Predicted. The current estimates are if the Thwaites Glacier were to totally disintegrate into the ocean, that ultimately sea level would rise by something like 5 feet. In areas around some of our biggest cities, New York, Boston, Miami, where you've got a lot of development, homes, buildings, infrastructure like roads, very close to sea level.
When breathing, humans exhale 4% CO2, 79% N2O, and 16% O2O. The trees absorb this CO2 and put it back out as oxygen, but with us cutting down trees and causing deforestation, the CO2 acts like a greenhouse does and keeps the solar radiation in the atmosphere. This is causing big problems all around the globe because it's noticeably hotter in most places. Some places haven't even seen snow yet this winter. There is even the possibility of small continents made mostly of ice and snow, like Greenland, for example, to melt almost completely. Here is a clip of how trees affect CO2.
Atmosphere's carbon dioxide also comes from deforestation. See, forests store carbon as plant matter in soil. And when deforestation occurs, it releases a large amount of that stored carbon to the atmosphere, similar to burning fossil fuels. And there's a lot of carbon stored in every acre. In fact, according to recent estimates, tropical deforestation accounts for up to 15% of net global carbon emissions.
That was my Cspan Student Cam project for 2020. And here are my sources.